The intention was always to be a musician. And I decided that I'm never going to get into, the film music, that is Bollywood music. So even though Bollywood music is popular all over the world, it hasn't actually broken cultural barriers. One of the biggest faults that I found with people who were trying Western genres of music in India is that they were not speaking and they were not singing about Indian topics and topics that are close to our heart.
Welcome to Radio City Indie Exchange, and today we have none other than the pride of our independent Indian music industry, the Ricky Kej. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. Yeah, I'm doing good so far. So staying isolated in my studio.
So let's talk about Divine Tides first. I think this really marks a huge collaboration between you and a five-time Grammy winner himself, Stewart Copeland. Firstly, how did this collaboration happen? Because of course, it must be things that people really dream of, don't they?
Sure. I mean, Stewart Copeland, I've admired him since I was a child. I've always looked up to him and been a huge fan of his music. So, of course, he gained a lot of popularity because he was the founder and the drummer of the band. And that particular band and Stewart Copeland have sold more than 75 million copies of albums. So they are one of the highest selling artists in the history of music. And in addition to that, what very few people know is that he's also composed a soundtrack for more than 50 Hollywood movies, including Oscar-winning movies like Wall Street. So, so I followed his career very intently and I saw all these various things within music that he was doing. And in 2016, I had an opportunity to collaborate with him on a single song, but I did not get to interact with him much because we interacted through artist managers and, I just sent him the music, he recorded the drums and he sent it back. But since the pandemic hit, and I could actually sit down and it gave me an opportunity to create new music as a follow-up to my Grammy-winning album. I actually reached out to him and I requested him to join me on this journey as a collaborator and let's make an album together. And to my surprise, he actually agreed. And that was how Divine Tides started.
There are 9 tracks in the album Divine Tides, but also there are 8 music videos, which you will be, of course, releasing through the next few hit music streaming platforms in September. I actually wanted to ask, as per the brief that has been sent to me, the music videos will cover some of the most exotic locations around the world, from the terrains of the Himalayas to the terrains of Spain. Given the pandemic and given the current situation that we are in, the kind of travel constraints, the kind of logistical constraints that I'm sure you must have faced while shooting these 8 music videos, how did all of this fall in place eventually?
So we have 9 songs and we have 8 music videos. And of course, we've preponed the release of the album itself. The album was supposed to release early on in September, but now we are releasing the entire album. All the songs are releasing on all the streaming platforms in the end of July. That is the 21st of July. That is this month. So that's very exciting. And the music videos, of course, it was a huge challenge to actually film these music videos through lockdowns. But we were very blessed to have some really good collaborators and really good filmmakers who made the process simple. So as you correctly mentioned, we've shot the music videos in the icy rainforests of Spain, in Swami Malai, in Tamil Nadu. We've shot in Himachal Pradesh. We've shot in the Western Ghats. So we've pretty much figured out like some beautiful places all over the world, and we've gone ahead and we've filmed in those places.
So from once aspiring dentist to now becoming the global ambassador for music and also, actively championing environmental concerns, it's been quite a journey. How do you, as a person, when you just sit down one day and, look back at it in retrospect, how do you look at it? How do you view your journey so far?
So, of course, I've from the time I've been conscious, as a very young child, I've always wanted to be a musician for the rest of my life. So I always wanted music to be a driving force in my life and not just a hobby or something that I do on the side. But my father, who is an Indian parent and a 3rd generation doctor, after I finished my 12th, he insisted that I do a degree in dental surgery. And of course, we fought a lot, but at the end I compromised and I did that. But even while I was doing my dentistry, I was doing music, in the evenings professionally, and I was composing a lot of jingles and a lot of albums and things like that. Also traveling internationally for concerts. So as soon as I got my degree, I gave the certificate to my father, and I did not practice even for a single day because the intention was always to be a musician. So of course, it's been a tough journey because mainly because I decided not to do mainstream pop music, and I decided that I'm never going to get into the film music, that is Bollywood music, and I'm only going to create music independently. So that was quite a challenge for me because I always wanted to make music which was an extension of my personality and music that I believe in, music that I want to make rather than what a director briefs me to make. So I did do a few Kannada movies in between with one director, that is Ramesh Arvind. I was a very close friend and a person who I admired deeply. I did 3 films with him, but after that, I decided not to work with anybody else and not to do any more films.
But sir, do you feel a sense of gratification? Do you feel a sense of satisfaction also in a way that you chose to tread a particular path and you're happy with whatever it's fetched you?
Definitely, and there's never been any doubt about it ever. Uh, I've always believed that this is the path that I'm going to take and this is what I'm going to do. And I had to look for inspiration from people who have done this before me. Like you look at a person like Pandit Ravi Shankar, the greatest sitarist, one of the greatest classical musicians India has ever had. And very early on in his career, he realized that, that even though he plays classical music and primarily Indian music, since he's not part of the film industry, he has to create a career more and more outside of India. And people outside of India were appreciating him, more than people in India. So he moved to San Francisco. Same thing with Ustad Zakir Hussain, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, Fazal Qureshi, Anushka Shankar, all these people. Even though they were playing pure classical music, they decided to, settle down and sell their music more and more abroad. And the thing is that if you look at their audiences, if you go to a concert while Pandit Ravi Shankar was alive, or even Anushka Shankar or Zakir Hussain in USA, their audience is almost entirely an American audience or the audience of the country that they've gone to, and not like how it is with a Bollywood concert. Because a Bollywood concert, when it is played in places like America and Europe, the audience is mainly the Indian diaspora. I would say 99% is the Indian diaspora. So even though Bollywood music is popular all over the world, it hasn't actually broken cultural barriers. But classical music has actually broken cultural barriers, and that was the direction that I wanted to take.
Very well said, sir. I think you really have a knack for collaborations, because from Volta Kellerman on Winds of Samsara, for which you have won the Grammy, to your previous album, Ek, where you collaborated with the best of Indian artists that we have, where we have Shankar Mahadev, and we have Anushka Shankar, and so many other wonderful names on that album. I mean, when you actually indulge in these collaborations, how do you view their processes, and what do you look at imbibing from the way they perform?
I thrive on collaborations. I love collaborating with people simply because when you nowadays computer technology is so good that you can just do everything on the computer. You can play all the instruments on the computer. You can finish off a song on the computer. So actually, it's not for the sound of an instrument that I require a collaborator, but it's because of their experience. I always believe that if you give a free hand to a collaborator, they can come up with something amazing, and they can take your composition to a whole new level. And so that's why I only collaborate with musicians who I believe are better than me. So throughout my career, I've always, every single musician that I've collaborated with on every single one of my albums has always been a musician who is a better musician than me. And when it came to the Ek album, so that was a unique collaboration because, it was in the thick of the pandemic. And I really wanted to do more and more work with, with Indian musicians, because I had never explored that. So, I was very, very fortunate to work with, with my new management and production firm. It's called Beatos Productions. So what I did was that I worked with them, and they work with such amazing artists across India. So they managed to get me in touch with all these artists, and they managed to facilitate all these recordings. And that's why I was very, very lucky and very fortunate to actually work with some of the greatest names in India on the Ek album.
Sir, you're the UNESCO Ambassador for Kindness. You also have the responsibility of being the UNCCD Land Ambassador. You are an active contributor for the Make Listening Initiative by the World Health Organization. My question is, can these added responsibilities as a Samaritan, or as you're a global icon in your own right, but can these additional responsibilities come in the way of an artist's creative process?
Actually, that's part of my creative process, because I do not differentiate between my life as as a person who is advocating for these issues like environmental issues and social issues, and my music itself, because both of them are completely combined and they're just one entity. Like, for example, I'm a celebrity supporter that is an ambassador with UNICEF, and I work very actively for child rights. I compose a lot of music for that. I perform a lot of music with regard to that in my concerts. Same thing with the UNCCD, that is the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. That's a United Nations convention which is working actively to prevent land degradation, because land degradation right now is the #1 cause for most of the problems that we are facing on our planet. So I've composed their anthem. I've also done a lot of concerts for raising awareness on land degradation all over the world. And the third thing that you mentioned was the Safe Listening Initiative of the WHO. So I'm on the board of the Safe Listening Initiative. So the idea is that the way that you can enjoy music and enjoy your hearing for your whole life is to actually practice safe listening by not listening to music too loud, and and for not listening to loud volumes for a very long time. So that's that particular cause that I work very closely with.
Beautiful, wonderful that is. So you're a Bangalore lad at heart. In fact, just yesterday when the Netflix Namma Stories anthem came out, Kannada rapper Siri, she spits her words and mentions and celebrates your achievements, your Grammy Award in that line. How do you look at the city, and the fact that the city itself is such a cultural hub for independent music in itself? How do you look at the evolution of the space in the city, and how do you look at the fact that today the city is home to some immensely talented artists and bands?
The Bangalore has given me everything that I have, and so I'm always going to be a Bangalorean, and I've been a Bangalorean. In fact, I keep telling people that my mom's Punjabi, my dad's Marwadi, but I'm a Kannadiga. So that's how it is. And people keep asking me, that are you going to be moving to Bombay, or are you going to be moving to Los Angeles? Because most of my work happens out of Los Angeles. But my answer is always no, because Bangalore is always going to be my home. And Bangalore, as you correctly mentioned, is a very metropolitan city. It's very welcoming to people. There are brilliant musicians in Bangalore who I depend on. And I constantly work with and I collaborate with. And the Netflix song which came out yesterday, it was such a pleasant surprise to see that I was mentioned in that song. And I even thank Siri for that. I think it was very, very nice of her to actually, acknowledge me in the song. So I felt very flattered by that.
Lastly, sir, before I conclude, I'd like to ask any fabulous independent young talents from our country today that you've been listening to, you've been following, and you look forward to collaborating with them?
The one independent group that I've always admired is Indian Ocean, and everybody does that, I'm pretty sure. So Indian Ocean is pretty good. I've been listening to Anuv Jain's work. I think he also is very good. Then I'm listening to a bunch of electronica artists. They are also the electronica artists and the glitch pop artists, in India are very good. Then I love Arivu's work, the Tamil rapper. He's amazing.
Absolutely.
Among rap, I love Arivu's work. I love Siri's work. I love Brodavi's work, Divine's work. So the rappers are, I think the rap culture in India has really come a long way, because one of the biggest faults that I found with people who were trying Western genres of music in India is that they were not speaking and they were not singing about Indian topics and topics that are close to our heart. They were, at least in the early 2000s, they were singing about Bush, and they were singing about and about America and about racism and all of that stuff. And I'm like, there are so many problems in India. Why aren't you singing about that? And the rappers actually, actually brought that out, and they started singing and they started rapping about problems which are very inherent in India. So they are rappers and they're activists, which is why I really like them.
Well, all I can say is that I really look forward to hearing Divine Tides as a whole album. And I wish you all the success in everything that you do from now on. Onwards and upwards from here. Thank you so much for joining us on Radio City and The Exchange, and I look forward to seeing you very soon in person.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you.